Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to Pop Culture Comics Presents Captain Logan's Comic Book Week in Review. Today we're going to start with Marvel. We're going to start with Fantastic Four number 586. We're one issue away from the end of this arc called 3, in which one of the Fantastic Four is supposed to die next issue. Now I'm always apprehensive about killing characters off in comics, of course, because these days we all know the drill. If it's a major enough character, we'll see them rise again in a year or less. But I do like how this is being handled so far, because usually we're told a character is going to die before it happens, and not only do we not know which of the four it's going to be, Hickman is doing a great job of keeping us guessing. As this arc has progressed, each of the four has been placed in various hazardous situations, and by the end of this issue, the danger is so insurmountable for all four that it's anyone's guess. There are 3 subplots going on, but the most interesting and most fun is still Mr. Fantastic and Galactus trying to figure out how Galactus gets killed in the future. They go across the galaxy in their search for answers, and there's a great turn of events where we're reminded how powerful and dangerous Galactus is when he gets hungry and decides to feed on the planet they're on instead of going back and eating Earth. Mr. Fantastic asks him if he'll allow him to save as many people as he can, and Galactus responds with, "Do what you must, as will I." I'm glad Galactus isn't made weaker or too sympathetic toward Reed just because he is his ally here. He even warns them against testing God. Johnny and Ben, still in human form, are being attacked at the Baxter Building by giant bugs, and Susan is caught in the middle of Namor's war with an old group of Atlanteans. Hickman continues to do a great job of balancing strange classic sci-fi FF stuff with a mostly serious tone, and Epting's classic and highly detailed art style accentuates that. Avengers number 8. Bendis and Romita are a rockin' team. They're bringing a wonderful sense of humor to this book, integrating elements from current Marvel stories like Red Hulk, and doing great over-the-top, big-scale stories, which is really the only way to go when you have such a powerful team. I was very excited before issue 7 when we were told they were doing an Infinity Gems arc, and they haven't disappointed. The ideas are great. The Illuminati, a group of trusted superheroes who guard each of the gems, are one by one getting their gems stolen by the Hood, who wants to recreate the Infinity Gauntlet and have the ultimate power. The only complaint I have is how slow-moving the story is so far. There's a lot of talking. Professor X, Mr. Fantastic, Namor, and the other Illuminati give us exposition about how the Illuminati were put together and how the first 2 gems were stolen. Red Hulk tells us how he was beaten by the Hood. There's a lack of pacing. The only real action is 2 full pages without dialogue of the fight with Red Hulk in the Hood, which has already happened and which feels unnecessary because Red Hulk has already told us everything we need to know about it. The rest of it is just people standing around and explaining things, and it's all stuff we either don't know or it needs to be explained for anyone who has never read the Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity War, but I feel like it could have been done in a more concise way so we can get on with the story. There aren't enough new developments here, but it's still beautifully drawn by John Romita Jr., and I have to give it props for making it accessible to new readers who aren't familiar with the Infinity Gems. Now on to DC with Batman Incorporated number 2. This is really some of the best Batman I've read in a long time. Batman and Catwoman continue to tangle with Lord Deathman as they investigate the death of Mr. Unknown in Japan. We discover that Mr. Unknown has a partner, but he's more than a sidekick. He's been doing all the costume activities for Mr. Unknown, who is getting too old to do it himself. He did all the detective work, and Euro did all the physical stuff. So Euro wants Batman to make him the offer to become a Batman that he was going to offer to Mr. Unknown. Batman tells him he saw him use a gun, and his first rule is no guns. So we discover whether or not Bruce will decide Euro is worthy of the mantle, and in the meantime, they have to stop Lord Deathman, who apparently can't be killed. Oh, and there's a giant squid, and Lord Deathman drives a sports car like a maniac and runs over everything and everyone he can. It's a beautifully dynamic book with a lot of exciting action balanced well with a human story about a guy trying to decide between being a hero and getting revenge on his fallen comrade. I really like Morrison's take on the Batman-Catwoman relationship, which has matured to a point where they seem to know what each other are thinking and are practically finishing each other's sentences. Yet, of course, Catwoman still hasn't completely committed to a crime-fighting lifestyle. Batman even offers her a place in Batman Incorporated, but I doubt if she'll ever accept. Green Arrow number 7. Ollie continues to face his past and try to move forward as he's visited by the ghost of his mother in the forest. The thing I really like about this issue is seeing Green Arrow finally in the city taking out street thugs. He seems more proactive now. But most of the issue is internal conflict as Ollie deals with his longtime regret for not preventing his mother from being killed. And she tries to teach him the lesson that it's time for him to forgive himself. I appreciate that Green Arrow is such an internalized character, but I really think it's time to get this plot moving a little. Last issue, Green Arrow stormed the Queen's empire, Ollie's former empire, and when he ended up more or less right back where he started by the end, I hoped he'd make some new headway this issue. It isn't a bad read, but I hope he actually learns something from this and that it's an opportunity for him to pick himself up and move on rather than staying trapped in the past, which seems to be a recurring theme for this series. Mayhew is giving us a more cartoonish, more minimalistic art style, and I really like how he draws faces, but I think Neve's style was better suited to this book, and I hope to see him return. It's decent as a standalone issue, but the series really needs to pick up the pace a little. Batman the Dark Knight #1. If you've been hoping for a more traditional Bat book like I have, you've finally gotten your wish. Bruce Wayne is Batman, in Gotham, scouring the underworld trying to solve a mystery. It's great to get some new backstory for Bruce, too. Dawn is a girl who used to come over to the mansion, and she was mean to Bruce, but they became closer as time went on. Now she's missing, and Bruce is obsessed with finding her. He seeks out Killer Croc, whom he has reason to believe knows something about it. Croc is more dangerous than usual because he's been getting street-grade venom, and there's an interesting subplot about drug runners distributing this version of venom, which is horribly dangerous if you stop taking it. I love Scott Williams' detailed artwork. His shading evokes a sense of mystery, and you can tell that he relishes drawing Gotham City. It's nice to see Batman interacting with Gordon again. The whole thing is like visiting old times, but it's bittersweet because Bruce is caught up in an unhealthy obsession. It's also nice to finally see Bruce dealing with some of his old foes again. And there's another one introduced at the end, though I won't say who. I've been looking forward to this book, and it's everything I was hoping for. A really strong start. And finally, Superman Batman #79. This is really your standard DC time travel story, with the villain from the future trying to mess with the time stream for his own purposes, which gives us an excuse to explore the future and the past of the DC universe. This sort of thing isn't exactly original, but it's probably done so often because it's a lot of fun, and I'm not going to complain too much because I couldn't help but have a good time with it. The villain is Epoch the Lord of Time, who wreaks havoc with time via his anti-hourglass, which is just so hokey and old school it's awesome. He's apprehended by the Superman and Batman of the 853rd century, and the best line comes on the second page when the robotic Robin tells him he's been charged with, among other things, premeditated paradox. Epoch escapes, of course, and he uses his time gadget to break into various superhero headquarters to steal equipment he needs. The issue becomes a tour of these headquarters and a reason for Marino to get to draw each of them. A little contrived? Yes, but worth it. We follow him to the Batcave, then to Justice League headquarters, then to the Fortress of Solitude, and we get to see what each of them looks like far in the future. I love it when Epoch gets to the fortress and finally says, "What is it with heroes and their trophies?" It's really more of a fun romp than a story, and this is finally a multi-part story for the series, so it's mostly setting up what looks like something even more interesting in the next issue, when Epoch goes to another time period and leaves us with what I thought was a pretty satisfying cliffhanger. And also out this week, from DC, there's Flash #8, the start to the road to Flashpoint. The members of Speed Force team up to fight a bizarre force. And for Marvel, Carnage #2, Spider-Man and Iron Man team up against Carnage, and what will Carnage be like without Cletus Cassidy? And What If 200? Two different stories. What if Norman Osborn won the siege of Asgard? And what if the Watcher were murdered by Galactus? The second story is based on the Coming of Galactus arc from Fantastic Four number 48 to 50 and is written by none other than Stan Lee. And those are my news and reviews for the week. I'm Captain Logan, wishing you pleasant reading and creative thinking.